today we're going to be talking about our favorite superhero movies and our top five favorite superhero movies. And yeah, so Nathan, do you wanna start us off with your number five pick?
My number five pick is, and you might have a problem with it, but I put Captain America: The Winter Soldier.
I mean, it's not a bad superhero movie, but explain why. I'm interested.
Well, I really like Captain America. You know, Captain America is my favorite superhero. Um,
Hmm.
and hold on, I need to plug in my controller. Captain America is my favorite superhero, and I really enjoy the dark and gritty uh, movie that The Winter Soldier is, and how Hydra's taken over Shield, and it's just very interesting going from Shield is this big organization that's been working with the Avengers, and then now they've been infiltrated and just are being destroyed from the inside. And then you have Bucky added to the mix, which causes some emotional challenges for Captain America, and it's just a really interesting movie, and I really like it.
See, I think I like it too. I think it's one of the better Marvel movies, but my big problem is that I really wish we had more characterization for Bucky Barnes
Mm-hmm.
because he would probably be one of my favorite Marvel characters in the movies because he looks awesome, right? He like I love the metal arm and like the long hair and the mask. He looks really cool, but he doesn't like what are his character traits that we know of? I mean, if you watch the first Captain America, he's like really interesting and like
Mm-hmm.
really funny in that movie. And if, I wish we could have gotten more of what he's like after Hydra has him. But
And that's
it is a
that's one of the
really
things that I think Civil War should have done, but it didn't, and that's where I was really disappointed. But I feel like in Winter Soldier, he's been brainwashed, and we shouldn't be necessarily looking at the different kinds of character depths in him at that moment because he is brainwashed. So,
yeah. But I mean,
but in Civil War, for
I
sure, that needed to happen, and we didn't get that.
hmm I really do like that movie. I like Sam Wilson. I
Hmm.
I really like the Falcon. I think he's one of the best side characters in the Marvel movies. And also just the friendship that like Black Widow and Captain America have, I think is really entertaining to
Hmm.
watch.
Yeah, I really like the movie. It's got great action, and then there's that elevator scene, which is
Oh yeah.
absolutely amazing.
It's pretty much iconic at this point, you know. But yeah, it is a good movie though. So,
All right,
uh
what's your number five?
my number five is the first Avengers movie.
Mm-hmm.
I it feels so comic booky, but in like in a good way. And it's like whenever because you get your first interactions between all the characters from Phase One. Because I mean, I think the Phase One, like people like to make fun of those movies, but honestly, they're not supposed to be amazing movies. They're supposed to be like solid movies to build the framework for the Avengers and the rest of the event, like the rest of the series. But anyways, you get to see these really cool first interactions, like with Captain America and Iron Man.
Mm-hmm.
And Tony Stark is literally one of my favorite, if not my favorite character in the entire MCU series. And you get to see Thor, you get to see Loki, even though like he like comes back, which is a little weird, but I enjoy watching that movie. It's a well-paced movie,
Mm-hmm.
and I also think Loki is the best villain until the Vulture and until Thanos.
Mm-hmm.
But it's also just a fun movie to watch, you know?
Yeah, for sure.
Like, I think the quips still hold up, even though it did come out in 2012. I think it was 2012, but it's for some reason it's almost always on TV, and I'm always excited to watch it if I can.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, and also I saw that movie in a drive-in whenever it first came out, and like I just really enjoyed the crap out of it. Because it's actually kind of funny because at the time Captain America was my favorite,
Mm-hmm.
and I hated Iron Man because he was such like a jerk to everyone.
Mm-hmm.
Like now that I've gotten older, Tony Stark is my favorite, and now it's like, man, Captain America is really angsty in that movie. But I mean, if it takes place right after the first Avenger, and like he's just been removed from time, so
Yeah, so
I've
it
heard
makes
a couple.
sense.
No, go ahead.
That was it. I was just gonna say it just makes sense
Oh,
for
yeah,
him
okay.
to act
But
that way.
I've heard a couple people complain about that before. It's like, oh well, he did just get swept off into the future, and he doesn't really know why he's there, and he doesn't feel like he belongs. So yeah, it makes sense that he'd be a little angsty, but yeah. And also Mark Ruffalo as the Hulk, I think is like one of the golden gems in the MCU that like I don't think a lot of people appreciate.
Mm-hmm.
Because I did not really like the Incredible Hulk Bruce Banner,
Mm-hmm.
but
That's the only Marvel movie I don't think that I've seen.
it's not terrible. It's not as bad as everyone says it is, but it doesn't hold a candle to like any of the other movies. Like it's way better than Thor: The Dark World.
Mm-hmm.
It's like I'd say it's the second or third to the last of the worst Marvel Cinematic Universe movies, but yeah, that's all I've got on the Avengers. But
All right. So what do you have as number 4?
my number 4 is The Incredibles.
The Incredibles.
Yeah, the first Incredibles.
Nice.
I love that movie. I used to watch that movie like every other day whenever I was a kid. And now that I've gotten older, I really appreciate it because, okay, so like on a surface level, if you just look at it, it looks like it takes place in like the 60s or 70s.
Mm-hmm.
But then it's like, oh, well, they have all this modern technology, but they do it in such a way that flows really well.
Uh-huh.
And I think from like a visual standpoint, I think that's really interesting and really cool to watch. And also, Mr. Incredible, like just the dynamic between the family is like is so realistic, and just like the mom yelling at Dash is just something that's very reminiscent of an actual family.
Mm-hmm.
And also Mr. Incredible's suit, like the blue suit, I think is one of the coolest looking superhero costumes.
Oh yeah, it's a very enjoyable movie, and it used to be definitely one of my favorite movies back in the day.
And like I really like, for some reason, I really now that I'm older, I really enjoy the villain because he's literally just an angry fanboy. And now because we live in a world that the superhero movies are the biggest movies of the year,
Mm-hmm.
for some reason that just really cracks me up, and it strangely holds up because we do live in a time that is like you can't go anywhere without seeing like an Avengers backpack
Uh-huh.
or a Spider-Man T-shirt. It's honestly pretty crazy, but
And it's a very sorry.
no, go ahead.
It's a very interesting concept that it's takes place in a world where superheroes aren't, nobody likes them. Everybody wants them gone because of the destruction or But yeah.
because they have their own like registration act, like in the Marvel
Mm-hmm.
the comics. But and also the opening scene is done really well, where it's like the character interviews,
Mm-hmm.
and it cuts back and forth between Mr. Incredible and Elastigirl and Frozone. It's just really funny to watch because Elastigirl's like, settle down, I'm at the top of my game, and then like it cuts and like her and Mr. Incredible are getting married. I don't know. I think it's also their relationship. I know I keep going off on different tangents, but their relationship is so much fun to watch. It's like Princess Leia and Han, but with like, I'm trying to think of another couple to compare it to. I don't know. They're just so much fun to watch because like they bicker and argue, but like they can also make quips at each other. I don't know. It's all the dynamics between the family members, and even like just the different characters like Frozone and crap, what's her name? She makes the costumes. I can't remember her name.
Edna, I think, or something like that.
Oh my gosh, she's hilarious.
Fun.
She's like,
yeah, she's so funny.
She's the Maz Kanata of the Incredibles.
Yes, you're so right.
But I don't know. It's just such a good movie. Like I watched it like a month ago with Hannah, and I was like, man, dang, this is actually like a really good movie.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a really fun movie to revisit. Now what's your number 4?
My number 4 is Captain America: The First Avenger, and the reason for that is, you know, one of the big things is that it takes place in World War II, and I just love that setting. But other than that, I just think it's pretty solid. I really like Red Skull as a villain, and it's cool to see Captain America leading a movement in. Oh my goodness, what was that? And leading those troops, you know, which is something that you don't get in where what am I trying to say? In like the, not necessarily like modern day, but like, you know, in the future later when Captain America comes out of the ice, you know, we don't see him actually leading the troops and doing that whole thing, which he does in the First Avenger, and I think that's a really cool. It's cool that we get to see that, and I don't know, I just really like it. So
it also has like the first 45, like I don't know, whenever there's Steve, they do like that is where like we know that he is good enough to be Captain America. Just like because people always point to the grenade scene, like whenever she throws the dummy, or whenever he throws the dummy grenade and he jumps on it. People always point to that to be like, oh yes, this is when Captain America was born. But actually, I think it's whenever he keeps trying to go and like he keeps trying to register, and that one like German doctor comes in, and he was like, "Do you want to kill Nazis?" And like, I don't know the rest of the interaction, but like Steve says like, "Oh, I just don't like bullies," and it was like, I remember the first time watching that, I was like, "Holy crap, that's really good." And also, he feels like an actual superhero, if that makes sense. Because like if you watch Iron Man, he doesn't like that. He doesn't feel like a superhero until like the later movies, or even like Thor. He just feels like a really loud, obnoxious Viking. He does, and then like even like in Man of Steel, Superman doesn't feel like an actual like superhero. But Captain America in the First Avenger really does feel like someone that you can look up to, if that makes sense.
Yeah. also, you know,
Now,
you get that relationship with Bucky, and
mhm,
uh, when Bucky falls off the train too, that's a very emotional moment in the movie, and I really like it. And then at the end, you know, like I don't just Captain America is such a good superhero. You know, sacrificing himself uh, by crashing the plane so that Red Skull could be stopped. And it's just great.
that that en- that entire scene with like Peggy Carter, they're like talking on the phone.
Hmm.
I remember when I first watched the Captain America movie, I was with David and like we were watching it down at the Mark. It's like for those of you who don't know, the Mark is like a weird. It used to be a church in our town, but they changed it into like a theater. And for some reason during the summer, they were playing it down at the Mark, and like hey, we both went together, and we were watching it, and I was trying not to. I was trying my hardest not to cry during that scene.
Yeah, it's an emotional scene.
Mm-hmm. And like, I know a lot of people were like, "Oh well, Black Widow and Captain America should have gotten together at the end," but something about Avengers Endgame, the very last scene is just Captain America slow dancing with Peggy. I get goosebumps and it makes me want to cry.
Oh yeah,
Because like
I
just
love that
watching,
scene.
I think that is the perfect way to end the Avengers movies, was just Cap what uh getting what he always dreamed and like what he thought couldn't happen.
Hmm.
Oh, such it's just such a good moment. But
Yeah, for sure. Anyways, what's your number 4? Did you already say?
my
Yeah, it was Incredibles.
oh
It was
yeah,
yeah.
we're on number
We're on
three.
number 3.
What's your number 3?
Let me look real quick. It is Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Oh my god.
I
Of
love
course it is.
the 90s Ninja Turtles so much. It is hilarious, and you know, it's not just a comedy, but it works in just so many different ways, and it is, yeah, it would probably make number 1 on my list, but um, just because it's not necessarily what you would consider as like a superhero movie is why I put it at number 3. But goodness gracious, I love that movie so much. The costumes are amazing. They look real. They feel real. Jim
They're
Henson.
not like they're not like weird CGI turtles like in the Michael Bay movies.
Yeah, I don't like the Michael Bay movies at all, but uh, the Jim Henson Ninja Turtles, the first 2 at least, because the third one's really bad, but the first 2
Yeah.
Ninja Turtle movies are great. You know, I love the interactions between Donatello and Michelangelo, and they always have this just background talk, and it's absolutely hilarious. It gets me every time. Um, it's just a fun time. Whenever I want to watch a fun movie and just relax, I always turn to Ninja Turtles.
hmm And also, it has like a lot of heart too. Like
Mhm.
just the storyline of like they think Splinter is dead,
Yeah.
and then at the same time you have the one weird ginger kid who like joins the weird but like evil teenager cult,
Hmm.
and like he doesn't get along with his dad, and he goes and he talks to Splinter, and he's like, "There's nothing stronger than a father's love," or something like that. Like, man, it hits you emotionally, and you didn't think it would because it's just a big rat talking about some like weird rubber turtles.
Hmm. And
But
then
it's really good.
the scenes, like the training montage that they have when they're at April's farm, and Raph is unconscious. I think it's really cool because April is like drawing the turtles, and you know, we get to see their relationship, and they don't really seem to like Raph, but when he gets unconscious and is right there, you can really tell that they actually care for him, and it's interesting, because once he comes back, then they're trying to figure out how to rescue Splinter, and I love that movie so much.
And like you can honestly tell like that they are brothers just because like of how they talk to each other and stuff, and that they do actually care for each other. But my number 3 is the classic Superman movie. Now, before I liked Spider-Man, who's my favorite superhero, before I liked Star Wars, before I liked Lord of the Rings, before I liked Harry Potter, Doctor Who, Pokemon, all of that, I loved Superman. Like, there were photos of me as a child in my underwear wearing a red cape and pretending to be Superman. Like, no, I'm dead serious. Like, he was literally my favorite thing whenever I was a little kid. And I remember watching this movie, and then just something about it, like it's like a cheesy 70s movie, like don't get me wrong, but holy crap, like for some reason, every time I just get drawn back into this movie, and it's weird because I don't even like the first part of it, because it's just really boring stuff that's happening on Krypton. But after that, for some reason, I just like fall in love with this movie. Like, the Superman theme alone, I think, is one of the best themes in all of movie history.
It's iconic.
I think it's up there with Star Wars and like Lord of the Rings as being one of the some of the most iconic music in movie
I agree with
history. And it's John Williams too, so you know it's gonna be great. But I think Christopher Reeve plays the perfect Superman. He's smart, he's kind, he's not dark and brooding. He is a little bit whenever he's supposed to be like a teenager in the movie. But I just love not everything, but I love most of the stuff about this movie. Like, I don't know her name, but she plays Lois Lane. The banter between Lois Lane and Superman, like, you don't get quality acting like that with most romances in movies nowadays, just because they were so fast and quippy with each other. And Christopher Reeve's portrayal of Clark Kent, I think, is also the best that we've gotten so far. Because Henry Cavill's Superman is like really weirdly confident as Clark Kent, because like he stands up to his boss and stuff, and that's not really in Clark Kent's character. But just like he completely looks and acts like a whole different person whenever he's playing Clark Kent. Because like he hunches over, he keeps pushing up his glasses, and he like talks in a more nasally voice, and you just like believe that, like, oh man, this guy's a huge dork. Like, he's not Superman. But then like 10 minutes later, he's in the suit and he's flying around and he's like quipping with Lois Lane. And, I don't know. You can just tell that like he is Superman. You know. And I don't know. I really just enjoy this movie a lot. And I also love the performance of, I don't know his name, but of Lex Luthor in this movie. I think he also does a really great job. I don't really like his henchman and his like weird girlfriend hench lady person. I don't really like that stuff, but I do like him, and I like Superman, and like kind of their back and forth. Now, the scene where Superman like flies around the world really fast to turn back time is really dumb and but I'm willing to go with it because I like the movie so much. But
Yeah, I haven't seen that movie in a very long time, but I remember that after I watched it, I immediately wanted to watch the other movies. And
Hmm.
while I didn't enjoy those as much as I liked the first one, it's definitely an iconic movie, and uh, I really enjoyed it.
Yeah. I don't really like the other Superman movies in the series that much,
Hmm.
but I do love that one, the first one.
Yeah.
All right. So what's your your number 3 is Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, right?
Yes.
All right. So what's your number 2?
My number two is The Dark Knight, and I say this. It was really tough for me, like, because I love the Dark Knight trilogy so much, and trying to figure out which one of those I like the most. It was really difficult between, Batman Begins and just The Dark Knight. Dark Knight Rises is okay, but it's definitely not my favorite. But I really enjoy The Dark Knight just because, Heath Ledger does such a great job as the Joker, and uh, it does a really good job showing that Bruce Wayne's gonna put Gotham in front of himself by when uh, when Two-Face dies and uh, they put the blame on Batman just so the Joker doesn't win. Uh, it's just it's a very serious moment, and I just enjoy the dark grittiness of that movie, and the action is really great too. Christopher Nolan does a great job with this trilogy. Um, it's just really enjoyable, and I'm not a huge DC fan by any means, but Batman is definitely one of my favorite superheroes because of this trilogy.
Yeah, I think it is a really good movie, but my problem is that it's like people only know it for Heath Ledger, so it's not,
Mm,
and it doesn't really feel like a Batman movie. It feels like a movie that has Bruce Wayne and Batman in it. You
yeah.
know, it feels like more like a story about Gotham City.
Mhm. I get that. Yeah.
Hmm. But I think I feel like we we don't overrate, we underrate, the rest of the actors in the Dark Knight trilogy because of Heath Ledger.
Mhm.
Like, uh, Christian Bale's performance, I think he does really good as Bruce Wayne.
I love Christian Bale when he's playing Bruce Wayne. It's so entertaining for me to watch. I think the reason that I watch these Batman movies isn't for Heath Ledger's performance. While it is a very good performance, and I love the relationship with the Joker and Batman. Uh,
Hmm.
the Joker says that he feels like they're meant to play this game forever. Because
Yeah.
he doesn't want to kill Batman. Batman's not going to kill anybody. So, but it's it's a very good movie, and I love Alfred as well. I don't know the
Oh
actor's
yeah.
name. I can't remember it, but the actor who plays Alfred is phenomenal. Um,
Oh yeah.
Especially in The Dark Knight Rises at the end when he thinks like Bruce Wayne is dead, and he goes to the funeral, and he's talking to the Wayne parents' grave, saying that he failed them. And I never noticed that the first time I watched it, but that's a very emotional scene, and I just love the Dark Knight trilogy so much. It's one of my favorite set of superhero movies to watch,
Mhm.
more than most Marvel movies. and that's something for it to be like a. I just really don't enjoy DC, but I love Batman.
Hmm. Also, Morgan Freeman is really good in those movies.
Oh, yeah.
He's good in everything he's in,
Mhm.
but I really like him as Lucius Fox,
Mhm.
especially in like Batman Begins, where he's like, "Now, Mr. Wayne," he's like, "I'm not gonna pretend that," like he's like, because like he kind of like calls Bruce Wayne out. He's like, he's not an idiot. He's like, "Now, why would you need this to do snorkeling or something like that?" I don't know why, but like he's just super funny whenever he's on screen. Like I think it's The Dark Knight. Like that one guy comes in, and he's like, I think Bruce Wayne is Batman," and then Morgan Freeman looks him dead in the eyes. He's like, "You think a billionaire spends his nights like out on the town beating criminals to a pulp?" And then the reporter he's like, "Oh well, when you say it like that, it sounds dumb." He's like, "I'll see you later." I don't remember the whole interaction, but
Yeah, that was right.
Just him being like, "You really think a millionaire playboy like Bruce Wayne spends his nights beating criminals to a pulp?" And I was like, I don't know. For some reason, I like that scene just cracks me up. Which is weird because they're not funny movies, and I don't think they're meant to be funny movies.
Mhm.
But man, just Morgan Freeman being really sassy like that just really cracks me up. But
Yeah, so that's my number 2. What's yours?
my number 2 is the first Iron Man.
Yeah, that's a good one.
I mean, on like a not film level, it's like, oh well, it started the MCU, blah blah blah. But honestly, it's just like a really entertaining movie. Like just the opening scene, you just see the desert and the Jeeps come in and like AC/DC starts to play, and you're like, like man, what's going on? And then Robert Downey Jr. Now he doesn't act like Tony Stark from the comics. I feel like it's a big misunderstanding that people have that he's like the most comic accurate actor ever. No.
Mhm.
But what he does do is he improves the character of Tony Stark, because in the comics, in the movies, before Robert Downey Jr. became Iron Man, he's just kind of a jerk.
Mhm.
And he's not funny or witty. He's literally just a jerk. But you have Robert Downey Jr. come in, and he's a jerk, but he's like really funny while doing it. He just doesn't say things to put other people down. And in this movie, I really like the editing, because it's literally in the first 10 minutes, or like the first 15, when Jeff Bridges' character, like Tony is receiving this award, and he's like, well, the best thing about Tony is his worst thing. He's always working, and it cuts to him in the casino playing games surrounded by like models or whatever.
Uh-huh.
I don't know. It's just, it says so much about his character without anybody really having to tell us. And I think besides the first Avenger, like the Captain America first Avenger, I think this movie sets up the Tony Stark. I think it sets up Tony Stark better than the Captain America movie sets up Steve Rogers.
Mhm.
And just to see Tony just in the cave with, I don't remember his name, but the doctor, and they're just working on it, and like he has a spark of hope, and he's just putting all his cards out on the table and using all his resourcefulness and his amazing mind to try to find a way out. And for some reason, it's like, and it's inspiring to watch. And then his friend dies, and it was like, don't let it be a waste. And like that's his Uncle Ben moment, you know.
Mhm.
And like whenever he gets back, he's like, "Oh, hey everybody." He's like has like the press conference. He's like, "Hey everybody, let's all sit down so we can all be equal." I don't know, for some reason, like I really like that. I don't know, just I miss the days of when superheroes had to make their costumes and stuff,
Mhm.
and they had to like test it out. I think that's I think that's some of the most interesting stuff you can have in a superhero movie. It's just the hero trying to figure out their costume, their suit, their powers. I don't know. It's just a really fun movie to watch.
Mhm.
But
Yeah.
yeah, okay.
Ooh.
What's your number 2?
I already said it was The Dark Knight.
Okay. Now what's your number 1?
My number 1 is Thor Ragnarok.
Ooh, why?
It's just so hilarious. It cracks me up all the time, and I never get bored watching it. It's so entertaining for obvious reasons. So, oh my goodness, I'm so bad at this.
Did you not prepare yourself?
Huh?
Wait, are you talking about your game or what?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Are you like trying to fight criminals or what?
Yeah, there's like a huge group of goons, and I just dropped in there thinking I was hot stuff, and I died.
Oh wow.
But yeah.
Let me take a drink of water.
Thor Ragnarok is just so entertaining. It takes Thor's character, who, he was okay in the movies before, but Thor Ragnarok takes him from a decent character to, it just improves his character 10 times, and it's wildly entertaining. It's the relationship that he has with Loki is fun to watch, and them doing get help makes me laugh every time. And
it's also just a fun movie to look at. Like it's really aesthetically pleasing to watch.
It is.
Because it has all the bright colors. And also, I think Benedict Cumberbatch is better in this movie than he is in his own movie playing Doctor Strange.
Mm-hmm.
I think Doctor Strange is one of those people that just has to be paired up with another hero just to be interesting. Like, I feel like that's whenever he's at his best. Like, in Infinity War, he's way more entertaining and fun to watch in there than he is in his own movie.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that makes sense, but I think he's just a character that thrives off having the energy of different characters, even in comic books, or cartoons. Like I don't think a Doctor Strange cartoon would do very well.
Yeah.
But
that's pretty much all I have to say for Thor Ragnarok. It's just fun to watch.
Okay, I'm gonna take another drink of water because I feel like I'm gonna be talking for a really long time.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Dang it.
My favorite superhero movie is also one of my favorite movies. And it's a stereotypical answer, but it's a movie I feel very strongly about. It's the Spider-Man 2.
Mm-hmm.
I used to watch this movie like every other day as a child. And like Spider-Man is literally my favorite superhero. I can't imagine my life without having Spider-Man, if that makes sense, because like he's, like I said, I used to watch this movie almost every day.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think Tobey Maguire is the best Spider-Man ever. I don't think Kirsten Dunst is a very good Mary Jane.
Yeah.
But for some reason, you just really care. I really care about these characters in this movie. Like, I think, like, Tobey Maguire has some weird line delivery, but he's just the drama of, because this movie, I don't think, it's not a superhero movie first. It's a drama movie here. It's a drama movie first.
Mm-hmm.
And one of my favorite things about this movie is actually High Top Films like has a video over this, but I love putting characters in a situation where this could be their life if they would just give up what they're doing, because like Otto Octavius is supposed to be like a mirror of what Peter Parker could do if he gave up Spider-Man and he went out with Mary Jane, if he did his homework and he just dedicated his life to science and to the people that he loves. But he can't do that because he feels the responsibility of being Spider-Man. And just one of my favorite things about Peter Parker is that his life literally sucks. Like he's put through the ringer every day. Just having the icing on the cake of he needs to pay for rent is such a good idea that like I wish I could have just little flavor like ideas like that to make a story better, because like in the opening like part of the movie, you know, he delivers a pizza, it's late, he gets fired from his job, he then has to go to a birthday party with his best friend who he doesn't really talk to because he thinks like because Harry thinks that he's the reason that his father is dead, and then he has to look at a girl he thinks he can't be with, and then Aunt May is also struggling not only with Ben's death but also with like paying the bills and stuff. And then the scene, just the line delivery of Aunt May just like giving him the money and he's like, no, I can't take this, and she started to cry and she's like, for God's sakes, it's not that much, just take it. And like she brings up Uncle Ben and how he was taken from him, and just the look on Peter Parker's face is enough to like make me almost cry. And then you have him, he goes to his apartment and then he has to pay rent, and it's for a really crappy apartment. I don't know, just the movie is so good at establishing like how crappy Peter's life is, but for some reason he keeps moving forward because he feels this responsibility to his home, to the city. I don't know, I think it's one of the I think it's a perfect, I don't think it's a perfect movie, but I think it's almost perfect. And like I think Dr. Octopus is my favorite villain in the Sam Raimi Spider-Man trilogy, because I think the Green Goblin is great, but something about just Otto Octavius being a mirror for Peter, I think it just makes him the most interesting. It's actually kind of interesting because in Spider-Man PS4, Otto Octavius plays a very similar role in the story of what Peter could be and like what Peter wants to be. So, I don't know, I think it's really interesting, and just the simplicity of the story allows it to be more complex. I know that like High Top Films has said that, and it's something that like makes me look at these movies in a whole different light. And like just even when I was little, I didn't know why I liked the movie so much. Like it's a fun action movie, but it's like 99% a drama and then 1% superhero. Like you don't see Spider-Man in the suit that much, which is really interesting. But I don't know, I really enjoy this movie. Like it's a movie that I sit and watch like every time I'm sick. It's really, I don't know, every time I'm sick or if I'm having like a down day, I just put it on and I feel 100 times better after watching it.
Oh yeah. Well, you can definitely see that after, you know, seeing Peter Parker go through all that all those troubles really really helps you to feel, you know, better about yourself since you're not going through the same stuff.
Yeah, but it's it's like in the top five of like my actual like favorite movies,
Mhm.
which is also another video that I think we should do.
Mhm. Yeah, for sure. I could go a little more in depth on those. So is that all?
Do you want to talk about like honorable other superhero movies that you love but didn't make it on the top five?
Sure, we can do an honorable mentions.
Nice. Okay. So
Um,
what do you think is a great superhero movie?
um, let's see. Uh, like you said earlier, I think Iron Man 2 is, or not Iron Man 2, but the first Iron Man movie is really good, and I think that would have been uh, next on my list uh, if we were going further on.
Hmm.
Um, let's see, what else is there? It's really weird because there's so many movies, but now like kind of being put on the spot, I can't really think of them.
I can talk about another one that I really like.
All right, go
I
ahead.
really like Big Hero 6.
Oh yes, that I
I
was also
love
gonna
that
put that on my
movie.
list. It's so good, and especially the beginning of the movie when the dude's brother dies in the fire. That part
Hmm.
gets me so close to crying every
Oh,
time.
me too. I honestly, I kind of would have preferred if the main character of the movie was his brother,
Yeah,
because for some reason I just thought he was really interesting. Like he was just
he
like
was
a
cool.
really cool, like hipster jock older brother. I don't know. I just really liked him.
Hmm.
And also Fred, I think that's his name. He's like the
Is
weird
it? Isn't
white.
he like? There's like a post credit scene or something with Stan Lee in it, and isn't he like Stan Lee's son?
Yeah. It's
That's
so weird.
hilarious.
It's yeah, it's pretty freaking funny. And also Baymax is hilarious. Like I think he's cuz like it feels like in every Disney movie they have to have like a cutesy character that they can sell plushies out of.
Uh huh.
But honestly, Baymax is also just an interesting character and he's actually funny, you know. Just like uh I don't know. He just does. He's like Baby
Oh
Yoda,
my goodness.
but a big marshmallow.
Yeah, it's
I don't
he's such a fun character, and uh, I think it's a very colorful movie too, and I really like
know.
just all the different colors and how all of them made their own kind of superhuman like they made the technology that made them superheroes, which is
They're all like tiny Tony Starks.
hmm and
I
the
don't
way
know.
they
I
just
just
worked. It's a very good movie. I really enjoy watching it.
also like how you're talking about like the colors, like just having set in like San Fran, Tokyo or whatever,
Hmm.
whatever they call it, and it just looks cool.
And
I don't
the
know.
way that the villain uses the main character's own creation
Hmm.
as you know his his power is is really interesting, and I really like the the way that works.
I think it's really ironic because he's supposed to be like a greedy corporate person,
Hmm.
but Disney is also a really greedy corporate entity.
Yeah.
I thought that was really ironic a couple of years after it came out and I watched it, and I was like, man, this came from the same place that keeps buying all the studios. I was like, that's really funny. But I don't know. It's just a really fun movie to watch. It's really energetic and has really good pacing.
Hmm.
But all right, what's another superhero movie that you think is great? Like if we had a top 10 list, it would be in your top 10.
I know you don't really like it, but I really enjoy watching Far From Home.
Yeah,
I
I mean,
I think
it's not
it's fun.
bad.
I think it's a
Like
fun movie.
it's definitely a fun movie. I just I don't for some reason I just didn't enjoy it. I prefer the Spider-Man stories where he stays in New York.
Mhm.
And also I came up like before the movie came out, I came up with like a really cool idea for this movie. And like I had like a whole pitch in my head for what it would be like, but then he like goes on vacation. I was like, this isn't. I don't know. It's definitely fun, but like I really wish they would address Tony Stark's death more.
Yeah, I think that for sure should have been a bigger part in the movie.
Because he's like, oh, I'm everywhere I go, I see his face, but then literally for the rest of the movie, he doesn't even talk about it
Mhm.
until until Happy Hogan shows up, and then he builds his own suit, which I take a Peter Parker should not have Stark level technology. It takes away from his ingenuitive, I don't know, his ingenuity and his creativity of what he can do his with his web shooters because he invented those himself. He
Right.
doesn't need Stark to make them. Like Peter Parker is literally one of the smartest characters. He's not Hank Pym, Mr. Fantastic, Tony Stark, Bruce Banner level smart, but he's just below that. Like literally if he would dedicate more of his time to science and not saving people, he would literally be on the same level as Tony Stark and Bruce
Mhm.
Banner. And I think this is going to sound really aggressive, but I think it's insulting to his character that he's not allowed to do that on his own. That he I get the point of Homecoming is for him to learn like the whole bit of Tony being like, if you're nothing without it, then you shouldn't have it.
Mhm.
But like he just had like he beats the villain, and then he gets an even better suit that looks way worse. I don't know. I have a lot of opinions about MCU Spider-Man, but
Yeah, I just really enjoy it. I think it's a fun movie, and I like Mysterio and how he uses the technology. And the scenes in which he's messing with Spider-Man are so trippy.
mhm.
It's a great
That's
job editing wise.
definitely one of the highlights of the movie is the scenes where whenever he is tripping out. But like the past couple days, I've been thinking a lot about MCU Spider-Man, and like I'll just start rant texting Hannah, and she'll be like, "Okay, yeah, but it's Tom Holland, so whatever." And I'm like, "Oh my gosh," but I could probably do a whole podcast talking about MCU Spider-Man, but
All right.
I think another another superhero movie that I think would be like in my top 10 would be I wrote a bunch of them down. Uh, I think Into the Spider-Verse. I think Into the Spider-Verse is one of the best superhero movies that's come out
It's
in
a
like the
very
past
solid
5
movie.
years. Just just like the interaction between like Fat Peter and Miles just cracks me up. And also just Fat Peter Parker cracks me up. I don't know why.
It's also a very
Just
colorful movie like Big Hero 6. And I
mm,
like the art style that it uses, and it's very
the
cool.
animation. But yeah. What's how long have we been talking?
I don't know.
All right. Do you want to talk about a couple more movies or what?
Um, I mean, if you want to, I don't have any other movies that are coming into my mind.
I'll talk about one more. Cause why not? Uh, Megamind. That's one of the ones that I wrote down. That's like not like a conventional superhero movie because
Mhm.
it's like a supervillain movie. But that movie is so funny.
Mhm.
Just I don't know. Like I used to have to babysit like my cousins a lot whenever I was little, and for some reason they loved this movie, and we used to watch it every time they would come over, and every time it would crack me up so much. I don't know, just looking at like the giant monkey suit mecha thing, and there's just a fishbowl on top of it. I don't know, for some reason that just really cracked me up as like a 12-year-old.
Yeah, it's
But
a very funny movie. I watched it. um, I think it was like a month before we started spring break, and
mhm.
I had totally forgotten how funny of a movie it is. It's not like what you would think of when you think of superhero movies, but it's definitely underrated, I think.
Yeah. Also, Brad Pitt as Metro Man is really funny. He's like, "I love you, Metro Man, and I love you too, random citizen." I don't like that part. Just always cracks me up. But yeah, I think that's all I've got.
All right. So do you want to end this podcast right here?
Yeah, sure.
All right.
Well, thanks everyone for listening, and
Until next
we'll see
time.
you guys later.